Hello, hello, hello. We are on day 4. It's oh so quiet. Shh, shh. Oh, so still. I'm not going to do the next bit because whilst Björk can shout and scream, I'm preserving my voice. It's quite early in the morning and I don't really want to damage it. But what I'm saying about that is contrast. Today's letter I for inspiration. Power. If you're talking about our 9 pillars of influential communication, number 4 is power. How do you use this amazing little instrument that you have nestling in your neck? Are you using it consciously? Because the way you use your voice, as I've said in the show notes, if you will, on this live, it forms the soundtrack to what you're saying. So are you using your voice consciously? Is there conscious use of volume? Now that's where we came in with that song. Oh, so quiet. Shh. Shh. And then she goes into big riot. If you know the song, it doesn't come as a big surprise. However, if you don't know the song, it is a surprise. That's the point. You can use volume to interrupt that same stream of sound that's coming from your voice, because we are hardwired for novelty. Novelty in any way, shape or form, whether it be visual, auditory, olfactory. How many of you have walked past a store which is selling perfumes or candles and things and you go, whoa, can smell that? You're hardwired for novelty. The same goes with your voice. Who here remembers a teacher who had a monotonous voice and it droned on? And did you remember anything they said? No, because there was nothing remarkable about it. Sorry, that wasn't conscious. There was nothing remarkable about it. The same goes with your voice. If you keep on that same volume all the way through, it gets boring and your audience zones out. If you have something surprising, like that alarm that I forgot to turn off, oh, you've got the attention back, haven't you? So, volume. Are you going to be making points that will shock your audience out of their zoning out? Alternatively, when you've got something conspiratorial, something secret, you can lean in. Okay, I know we're doing the visual stuff there as well, but if you go quiet, I can guarantee you everybody will be listening. Okay, hang on a minute, what am I missing? Because we don't like to miss out on things, do we? So consciously use the big sound and the little sound. And when you combine it with the speed of what you're saying, ooh, then we're getting really clever. Because when you have that quiet and slow, it builds tension. I was talking about movie scripts earlier on. Think about Jaws. It got faster, didn't it? You knew there was something about to happen. It built tension. Quiet and fast. That's where we get the conspiratorial things. Oh, I don't want to miss anything. You ramp up the excitement. Don't miss this. When you have something loud and slow, you are really emphasizing it. And when you have something loud and fast, it's built out the excitement. It's oh, where are we going with this? And it's really important that I listen to it. There's a speed, there's a delivery, there's an urgency about it. And you see how when you consciously use both volume and your speed, your pacing, you really can put in wonderful variations in what you're saying. And then you've got things like melody, vocal variety, as it can be known in the trade. This is where I already mentioned, if you have a monotonous tone, people zone out, they get bored. However, when you have that lilting, you have that vocal variety, you have that maybe sing-songy, but you change the pitch consciously. That will bring your audience's attention in. There's things like tonality, another technical word. Where does the end of your phrase go? Does it go up at the end, which is appropriate for a question? And if you're in the middle of a list, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you know there's something else coming. Here in Australia, we have the concept of yarning, telling a story. And very often, the ends of phrases go up, which is kind of inviting you that there's something else coming, which is great when you're yarning. But when you're making an important point, say at the end of your call to action, at the end of your talk, if you have that up at the end, you kind of lose your sense of credibility. It sounds a bit weak. It sounds a bit apologetic. You don't want that at all. You want to have that command tone, the one that goes down at the end, because this is important. Can you hear the difference? When you're apologetic, you're not going to get people to come on board with you. You're not going to get the most out of what you're saying because it sounds as though you're not particularly believing in it. Whereas you know what you're saying. You know what you're saying. It's important. Listen up. This is important. This is what you need to do. This is what I'm inviting you to do. Can you hear that? The middle one, the neutral one, is a statement. It's neither here nor there. Yeah, it's kind of a bit like white bread. There's nothing to write home about. It's in the middle of a whole heap of things. There are subtle differences, micro up and downs within the whole phrasing, but I'm giving you the basic three: the up, the neutral, and the down. Tonality. What else have we got? With using your voice, going back to the inspiration we can do on two levels. We can do it in terms of how inspiring is my story? Am I bringing that sense of energy and purpose to it? And also inspiration from the literal side of things, the breathing. When you breathe fully from your diaphragm all the way down to the base of your ribs, then you can consciously control how much air is coming out after it. You don't want to run out of puff. Because if you haven't taken an adequate enough breath, you can run out of puff. You can lose the ends of phrases. And when you do that, your audience is left going, what was she saying? They're still trying to piece together what you said from the context of what came earlier, when you've already moved on to the next sentence. And until they catch up, that bit in between has been lost. Keep your puff going all the way to the ends of your sentences. In English, we tend to put the really important words towards the end of sentences, end of phrases. So keep the energy, keep the puff going all the way through to the end. Inspiration, breathing. When you do that, as I said, breathe all the way down to your diaphragm. Imagine your lungs are bellows. and you're breathing out like that, and you're breathing in like that, and you're breathing out consciously like that. Most people, when you ask them to breathe in, they'll go, and they're only going to be using top part of their lungs. You want to go all the way down to the bottom. Okay? When we work together, you'll see how I stand up and show you different ways of doing it. That's another thing to use your voice with. So we've looked at volume. Oh, here's an important one. Pausing. You know, I said we were hardwired for novelty. That also goes for pausing, because when you're in the middle of something and there's a break in transmission, you will get the attention of those who've zoned out. Pauses are incredibly important. They form almost like punctuation in what you're saying. Did you get that one? Punctuation, comma, in what you're saying, comma. Like brackets in that respect. There's the pre-pause. Something important's coming up. And there's what we call the post-pause or the drop the mic moment, when you've said something so profound that you let it land. And you give the audience that second or so to process it before you go on to the next point. Now, when you're nervous, pauses can go out of the window. Breathing gets interrupted. Breathing is something that I really strongly suggest that you get hold of, practicing that before you get into a nervous situation, because that will help you to calm your nerves. And the pausing. When you're going from one point to the next in your talk, you allow a pause. It's almost as it's a page turn. You're going from one point to the next. So there's that version of it. And as I said, there's what comes next is really profound, the pre-pause. If you get lost in your talk and you think, oh God, where am I? What comes next? Rather than let your face show it like that, develop that thinky look. And then as long as what comes next is worth waiting for, your audience will not only forgive you for that pause, they'll think you're more intelligent. How cool is that? That's your pre-pause. Then you've got your post-pause, as I said. You've dropped your mic. You've had a brilliant moment. Let it land. Resonance is something else to think about. Now that we're getting more into the technical stuff now, which is something I work in with clients when I'm working with them regularly. We look at those resonating chambers. You've got the chest resonance down here. You've got the head resonance up here. You've got throat resonance in between. How you go between them consciously will impact the resonance of your voice and how it sounds. I mean, at the moment, and you know, I won't bother with that one at the moment. At the moment, I'm feeling a bit tight, and you can hear it in my throat. It's not its usual clear self. I'll be honest. Late night, early morning, not fully rested. I haven't done my vocal warm-ups, and it shows. Part of my vocal warm-ups are doing what I call sirens. That will take me from my chest resonance through my throat resonance to my head resonance and back again. This is getting really technical, I know, and not many speakers get into that realm. This is my background in speech pathology coming out for you. But that's another thing to bear in mind. So there are a few things to consider. How are you consciously using your voice? What energy are you bringing through your voice that's the soundtrack to what you're saying. Because I'm sure you're familiar with that Maya Angelou quote, people will forget what you've said, they'll forget what you've done, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. How is your voice the soundtrack to your emotional journey that you're taking them on? Does your voice reflect the words that you're saying? The speed, the pace, the pausing, the energy, the emotion. Tomorrow, come back and we'll talk about pillar number 5. I'm going to let you think about what the S could stand for. If you haven't already downloaded the 9 pillars of influential communication, I'll pop the information in the chat for you, and you can get hold of a much broader example of what we're talking about. For now, bye from me.